Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much. Well, let's call the Design Review Subcommittee of San Clemente's meeting for Wednesday, March 24th to order. We have some new applicants. Katie, do you think, are they aware of what our purpose is and all, or should I read the little preamble?
I think it would be helpful to read the preamble.
Okay. The purpose of the subcommittee is to provide direction, insight, concerns, and options to the applicant on how the project can best comply with the city's design guidelines and/or city policies. The subcommittee is not an approving body. They make recommendations to the Planning Commission and zoning administrator regarding the project compliance with city guidelines and design guidelines. Each of the subcommittee members will provide input and suggest recommendations to the applicant based upon written city guidelines and/or city policies. The subcommittee will not design the project for the applicant, nor will the members always agree on the best course of action. The applicant can then assess the input and incorporate any changes accordingly, with the understanding that the subcommittee is simply a recommending body. Decisions to approve, deny, or modify a project are made by the Planning Commission, City Council, and/or zoning administrator with input and recommendations from the subcommittee and city staff. I think that pretty much explains our purpose. We have one set of minutes to approve, the minutes of February 10th, 2021. Do we have any corrections or a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Blackwell, second by Jen. I will call roll. Jen?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And I will agree and vote aye, passes unanimously. We have one item for review today, Cultural Heritage Permit 2378, minor exception permit 21003. Shabby addition 1011 Buena Vista. Katie Crockett is wearing two hats today. She is actually chairing the meeting for the city planning commission or planning department, as well as being the staff presenter. Katie, would you like to introduce your applicants before you start your presentation?
Yes, sure. So on the line, we have the property owners, Alan and Paria Shabby, as well as the designers, Heidi and Nick Kohler.
Very good. Welcome.
And I do have a presentation that I think Tara can pull up for me. So this project is a 619 square foot addition and remodel to a non-conforming multifamily residence within 300 feet of a historic structure on the coastal bluff at 1011 Buena Vista. They will also be relocating the existing garage, which is non-conforming with regard to the front setback, to a location permitted for in-the-bank garages with approval of a minor exception permit. Next slide. The location is highlighted here and also on page 1 of the agenda packet. It's within 300 feet of the historic structure. There you can see at 1102 Buena Vista. The project is currently non-conforming with regard to the rear setback from the coastal bluff, the south side setback, and the number of parking spaces, as well as the location of the garage, as I previously mentioned. Next slide. The existing 4-unit residential development includes 2 buildings with a detached in-the-bank garage. The structures are 1-story buildings with primarily stucco facades and a combination of flat and low-pitch asphalt shingle hip and gable roofs. The bottom right photo shows the street view from the historic property looking towards the project site. As you can see, the proposed site is not dominant in the streetscape, and the garage will be moved back an additional 8 feet from where it is now from the property line, resulting in a 12-foot setback from property line. While the front setback is 15 feet, again, with the approval of the minor exception permit, the reduced setback is permitted by the municipal code to prevent excessive grading on sloping lots. Surrounding properties are mainly 1- and 2-story multifamily residences. Most are characterized by similar in the bank garages at the street, and there are a variety of architectural types in the immediate vicinity. Next slide. The proposed project will combine 2 of the units. That's, you can see on the right there, is called out as Unit 3 in light gray. And they also propose a 619 square foot, or 622, sorry, I'm just seeing that on plans, about 620 square feet between the existing residential buildings, and that would connect the 2 buildings, creating 3 units, with 1 much larger unit and 2 smaller units. They will be relocating the garage further away from the property line. And that's an MEP is required for that. Next slide. The facade will be updated, maintaining the white stucco as the primary material, with wood siding and details, and modifying some roof lines, utilizing more flat roof, but maintaining the dark asphalt shingle material. Next slide. The project continues to be consistent with the scale, massing, and form of the neighborhood, and in fact doesn't significantly change the existing conditions in this regard. Because of the relatively low profile of this proposed development and the distance from the historic structure, staff doesn't believe the project would have any negative impact on the historic structure. Overall, staff found the project to be consistent with the general plan and the design guidelines. Because the project is on a coastal bluff and the applicant is proposing new patio covers and a spa at the rear, staff did have some minor recommendations to those elements at the rear to be consistent with the city's coastal land use plan. Staff had recommended in review that the applicant also provide the 2 trees within the front setback that the zoning ordinance requires. There are not currently any trees in the front setback. It is a pretty tight lot with the driveways and the walkway at the front, since that's the narrowest part of the lot. So even though no other landscape modifications are a part of this permit, staff does recommend that the applicant specify the tree species proposed in order to ensure that they're appropriate for the location and consistent with the coastal land use plan. With that, staff does ask for DRSC's concurrence with the recommendations regarding the accessory structures at the rear and the tree type consistency with the LUP prior to the project moving forward to Planning Commission. We did not receive any public comments on the project. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. And as I previously mentioned, we do have several of the applicant team on the line.
Very good. Before we ask questions, Katie, why don't we allow the applicant and their architect to make a presentation if they would like to.
Did either the owner or the architect have anything additional to add?
As the designer at this point, we're comfortable. We don't have anything currently to add.
Thanks, Heidi.
Would the owner also like to either introduce themselves or make any comments?
Good afternoon. I'm Pari Ashabi. I'm the owner of the property. And we're just excited. We just want to move in and get this done and move in. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Either Michael or Zen, do you have any questions for Katie at this time?
I do.
Okay, Michael, go ahead.
Thank you. Katie, on the new garages, we have a single large, double wide, and then we have 2 singles. Those garage doors on the singles appear to be somewhat taller than the double. Is there a reason for that?
I'm not aware of any particular reason for that.
Katie, I can respond to that as the designer, if that's okay.
Please.
Yeah, we're open to suggestions regarding that. I think the intention was to not prevent the double garage door from having to be excessively tall because of the slope from the front. There's a huge disparity between the head heights. So just for proportion, and then you're not needing an excessively large double garage door for cost. Those were the considerations for that decision.
So the double is pretty much, looks like a standard width and height to accommodate 2 vehicles.
Correct.
Okay, and then the single, each will accommodate 1 vehicle, but the height of those singles seems to be above standard height. I'm wondering why you didn't just make those, those doors the same scale or in height as the standard double door.
Sure, we certainly could if that's an aesthetic consideration that's of concern.
Okay. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Wu.
Yes. Hey, Katie. Is a CDP coastal development permit required?
Review by the Coastal Commission will be required. It will be their determination whether a de minimis waiver is issued or a CDP.
Okay. For the city's certified coastal program, land use plan, is that applicable?
The land use plan is applicable in that just like the general plan, we want the project to be consistent with it for all discretionary applications.
But the Coastal Commission will make their decision when they review the project regarding the land use, right?
Yes, they will.
Okay. There are existing 3 Mexican bend palm trees. Are they going to stay?
Heidi, do you know if they're going to stay? I was under the impression that they were, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think the applicant is open to leaving trees that can be saved during construction. Don't think they want to remove them unnecessarily.
We
Okay.
love those palm trees. We will not move them.
Okay, thank you. That's my question so far.
Okay. Katie, in regards to the garage setback ordinance, it says that with the slope they've got, 10 foot would be what the code kind of designates for that, being that it's got 10-foot grade change in the first 30 feet. If they comply with the 10-foot, is a minor exception required for that, or is that by right?
The minor exception permit is required to allow that encroachment.
Okay. Very good. And then there were some that I think Heidi can address. I'm confused on your square footages. On the plans I received, you've got the unit 1 is 599 square feet in all, both existing and remodeled conditions. That extra 100 feet doesn't look like it was taken off. That's going to the other units. Am I correct, or am I reading it wrong?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, unit 1 is staying the same size.
And what is that? That it looks like about 120 square foot square next to it.
The square next to it, you mean what is it
It's not
currently?
labeled as what its use is currently, existing or particularly on page 101.
Yes. Yes. Yes, you're correct. That has not been reduced in the proposed plan. So that's a drafting error there. That 599 should be smaller because that space is being enclosed by the larger unit. And I can see on page A103 that lighter gray fill is extending through there. So I'll correct that and it will reduce the size of that second unit.
Do you know what that size is going to be? Is it going to be what, like 480 or something like that?
Yeah, that's pretty close. I can confirm that.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, but yes, that's a drafting error.
Okay, I will save my other comments for discussion. Did that cue anything for Michael or Jen to ask additional questions?
No, I have no more additional questions.
Okay, let's close the question and answer for staff and presentation. Open it up. Katie said there were no public comments received, and I have not received any and haven't talked to anyone. So we'll open it up for discussion. And who would like to jump in?
I can start.
Oh, okay, very good.
Hey, Chair. So I have some notes throughout the drawing. So that may go back and forth a little bit.
You want to do a page turn? You want to just do a page turn then, Jim?
Well, no, I look at them on my page, but you don't have to follow that. But anyway, I would like to say, first of all, I want to commend the applicant for the restraint of building height to try to keep neighbors view. I think it's a very nice thing to do. The existing roof is a shallow pitch roof. The new roof to be replaced is a flat roof with just minimum pitch to shed the water, and that keeps the building height low, and so it doesn't interfere with the neighbor's view. Although its private view is not protecting the city, but I think it's a very good thing to do. Style, I think I like the style. It's a little bit modern, and the unit 1 and 2, they're a little more traditional, but the juxtaposition is still compatible. They create some interest, so I like it. And I think overall it's a good package. It clearly shows the intent of design. There's some minor missing information on landscape and civil engineering, but they're very minor. So with that, I mostly spend time to address some of the concern I have. Next time, either in this meeting or in Planning Commission, I'd like to see a civil engineering drawing. On the front page, it says driveway approach to be modified to meet the ADA requirements. I believe it's doable because we have almost, I think we have about 10 feet within the right of way to accommodate the curb cut as well as the sidewalk around it. I think with proper engineering, it's doable, but I want to see it. Then I'm a little concerned, and so I'm not sure I can agree that this project would qualify for the garage setback encroachment. I looked at it, I studied the criteria. The reference point we're using is not in front of our subject property. It's outside of it, it's in front of the neighboring property. So even if you draw a perpendicular line from that reference point, at the elevation of 106.95, even if you draw a line perpendicular to it, and you offset from the front property line by 30 feet, you're still landing in neighbor's property. So that at that extreme point, it's a stretch to call it qualified. And then on the high side, we have a great difference about 3 feet. If we just look at the garage, I'd say the great difference is from 3 to maybe 8 or 9 feet. and with the average of about 5 or 6 feet. So I think it's a little difficult to justify the minor exception permit, because not only the finding A asks for the compliance with the standards, finding B asks to look at the length and the width of the grading difference and make a determination that they are substantial enough to avoid excessive grading, which I don't feel that's the case here. So going to landscaping, we have 2 more trees to be added in the front, which I like. The left side tree, they're in a very narrow strip of dirt. I would have estimated to be 2 feet. Want to make sure, maybe ask our city landscape architect reviewers to see if that's enough for a tree to grow. Also, both trees is going to overhang and they're leading to neighboring property. In those cases, sometimes I wonder, should we consult the neighbors? Because eventually, trees will grow into neighbor's yard. Either they're not perfectly straight, or some branches will overhang into the neighboring property. Sometimes it causes issues. I don't foresee it, because this appears to be a palm tree, assuming it's tall and slim. It's not a broadleaf tree that will reach very far. So, but I just want to make sure. And then again, coming back to the garage setback, 12 feet setback induces parking on the driveway. So inevitable. Right now, cars park in front of the garage, overhanging the tail on the sidewalk and a little bit on the street. But 12 feet people will park there, and they overhang on the sidewalk. Now, recognize that we don't need the full 10 feet for the sidewalk, but we just talk about the curb cut. Then the next portion will be ADA required sidewalk. So that full 10 feet will be used, and therefore, when people park their car there, they're going to block the sidewalk, defeat the purpose of that ADA required sidewalk. So I'm not sure that's a good idea to step back by 12 feet, compounded with the comments I just made about the qualification for the minor exception permit. So I will, and the next thing is about a non-conforming status. Since we're removing 48% of the exterior wall, the non-conforming status can stay. But I do want to let the applicant to be aware that they're going to Coastal Commission. Coastal Commission has different definition of what they call major remodel. They look at the main structural elements, not just exterior wall, but also floor and roof. Since we're removing much more than 50% of the roof structure, in Coastal Commission's eyes, they will decide that this is a major remodel. As a result, they may ask you to step back the building to 25 feet from the bluff top. It's not a city's business at this moment, but I just want to let the applicant to be aware of that potential issue. Because if you spend all the time and energy to clear the city, then you go to Coastal and be asked by the Coastal to step back, it will be a major setback on your progress. Also, when you move the building, if you are going to set back the building from the bluff top by 25 feet per Coastal Commission's requirement, then suddenly you may not be able to meet the 50. you may not be able to be below the 50% of the threshold because at the corner you have some existing wall you want to keep. My point is that you're so close to that break-even point. Any minor revision, even from Coastal Commission comments, will result in you being not able to keep your non-conforming status because suddenly you're removing more than 50% of exterior wall. And I just want to let you, let the acting to realize that there is a potential there that the Coastal Commission may consider this a major remodel because the roof structure is substantially changed. So back to the garage setback, even if the lower garage, somewhere you get a majority support from planning commission or here that you can stay as is, then there's no reason that the upper garage should be allowed to have only 12 feet setback because essentially the two garages, well, yeah, they're garage for different units and they're just attached to each other. And the greater difference for the upper garage is much smaller. So that, let me just flip the page. I think that's all my comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to chime in because that was exactly my concern on the garage locations. And I think we would all agree that aesthetically, we'd love that thing to be pushed back from the street. I think that is probably the best thing that could happen aesthetically, but in practicality, Jen identified the problem that there's a 10-foot right of way. And I don't think that we could recommend or that the planning commission would probably approve creating a code enforcement issue by going to 12 feet from property line to garage door. Our minimum typical parking space is 18 foot. That means we'd be sitting, 6 feet over the 9-foot right of way and would be blocking an ADA path of travel. If we had space there that encouraged parking. So on first blush, I think Jen's got the right thing. We need more information on the grading and how the exception applies to the 10-foot setback, whether it really does comply or not, as well as I would be hard pressed. I was looking at what the purpose of the minor exception permits are. And it says the minor exception permit process streamlines the review of requests for minor modifications of selected site development regulations where such exceptions constitute reasonable use of property, will be compatible with adjoining uses, and will be consistent with the goals and objectives of the general plan and intent of the zoning ordinance. And something I've always pressed, but it's not hardcore in writing for San Clemente, is parking spaces in many developments are 8-foot minimum, and you can't have any driveway between 8 and 18 feet. And the meaning being, you don't want to encourage people to park illegally. And I think if the garages stay where they are, they're grandfathered in. Certainly love to see the grading change possibly and having your double door just the way you like it, etc. But I think we would be encouraging parking over the sidewalk and handicap path. And I don't think I could make the finding at the commission level, all of us are also planning commissioners, by the way, that this follows the intent of the zoning ordinance. I don't think that's the intent of the zoning ordinance to create a conflict. I know looking in the neighborhoods, a lot of people have done it and people are parking over the sidewalk. So it's certainly been done, but that's not a reason for us to continue to do it. But I do want to say that I'm very pleased with the low elevation as Jen had outlined. I think there's some minor little things that need to be tweaked. Just a heads up, I have been, being an architect, I've been dinged by plan checkers in the past on light and ventilation and using a long corridor because it's not considered a court, Heidi, and even trying to put a skylight in for that unit one bedroom. Be aware that could be a little bit of a stickler when you get the plan check. You might want to let our building department before you go much further on that approach. But architecturally, I think it's compatible with the neighborhood. I think Katie's done a good job reviewing the architecture and style. I do not believe it impacts the historic residents at all. So for the minor cultural heritage permit, I'm comfortable with that. But I think the setback at the front is probably the biggest stumbling block at this time. And I'll turn it over to Michael, see if he builds on anything that we can discuss further. Michael.
Thanks, Bart. Yeah, you both have excellent comments, and I would agree with the perspectives. I'm looking at the lines here, and I'm just intrigued by modern design and various takes on that from the designers we've seen over the years. And this one I'm struggling with at the street, because when I look at it, I'm not as at peace with the facade there with the garages. I feel like there's some imbalance, and I'd like to see some scale with those garage doors and some sense made with the window openings. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I'm struggling with balance here, and I think we need that. We need simplicity with modern design, and I see the basic elements, but to me, it's just not working. And I'm going to have to ask Katie a question about and forgive me if I missed that part, and I'm struggling to get through the notes here. I don't find it there either, but the material of the garage door, what is that? Is that metal?
Let me just double check. Oh, this call out was
18.
missing. I think it's supposed to be 17 there that's called out, the wood sectional folding garage door. Since it's shown the same as the siding, I assumed that it would be the same material, but the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct, Katie. That's the intention, that it would be wood.
Okay, I think it would be a good idea to make sure that information is clear. When we're talking wood, this is real wood. We're not talking about aluminum made to look like wood. So we're talking about louvered, or not even louvered, but sectional. They look like mini segments. Or is it maybe 3-piece doors or large traditional panels with that detail on the outside?
Correct. The intention is real wood.
Okay. So, but these won't be roll-up doors per se. They're going to be typical garage doors that will open in sections.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Commissioner Wu touched on the landscape piece. I agreed there should be more detail on the landscape plan, and it should be vetted by our contract landscape architect. you know, it's unclear exactly what variety of palm this is, but it's a broad canopy palm tree. That could be anything in these renderings. It could, who knows? But I would suggest a smaller variety if you're going to be close to the property lines. Maybe consider something like a you know, windmill palms, but in clusters. You know, maybe one or two on one side, maybe just uneven numbers, so it's not flanked like columns, but you know, clustered. Maybe even
Coastal doesn't, I'm sorry, Commissioner, Coastal doesn't allow palms, I don't think really at all, except the Washingtonias, I believe.
we can't even do a windmill. The Chinese windmill?
I don't know. I'd have to double check, but I don't think that Coastal allows those. I'll check on that one though,
Okay.
specifically.
Yeah, if you could, it is a smaller tree, non-invasive, and it would kind of meet the objectives that are were suggested by Commissioner Wu to not encroach onto the neighboring property. You can move it in and still get the effect in smaller scale. So whatever they come up with, you know, there should be some consideration to that valid point. I think another good add, and it looks like there's enough in the driveway approach to do some sort of a permeable surface. I think that would soften, because there's really an absence of any landscape whatsoever. I mean, I understand the intention here with the architecture, and I think it's going to look good, but I think it'd also be enhanced with some you know, maybe permeable surface, like I don't know, like pavers, driveway pavers with grass in between, or some sort of a, you know, a resilient ground cover in between that would sort of play off of the lines of the architecture. I think that would be a nice modern approach and still add some softness. I think it'd be a great idea. And then the continuity and scale to the garage doors, as I had mentioned earlier, I think that's going to be very, very important here, because there's enough work to be done here that will be done that you know, creates a what I would consider a large project, and I think it warrants some attention at the streetscape. You know, that's what folks are going to be looking at, and there should be nice detail and scale to that face of the architecture. But the rest of it I like. I mean, the colors aren't, you know, we don't have color material boards or anything, but based on the renderings, you know, the colors seem to work. There's lots of glass. I like that. I like the ground to plate glass there. It can get very expensive to do a lot of that, but they already have a lot in the design here. I'm not really concerned about the material. Would be nice to see metal frame. That'd be beautiful if you could do that, pull that off. But other than that, I think, you know, I think that's about all I have to say on it. I think it'll be a nice looking project when it's completed.
Very good, Michael. Did you have any additional comments, Jen? I noticed your mic is on.
Oh, yeah. Regarding the staff recommendation, I'd agree with those recommendations, except for the fire pit. I don't know if fire pit needs a foundation. I think you just, as long as the paver underneath, you just buy one and drop it there. That's my understanding. So that may not be an issue. But again, this eventually is up to the coastal commission.
Okay, Heidi, I'd like to bring you back on board and give you an opportunity to, you've heard the comments, to give us your comments on what we said, if you agree or disagree, and if you disagree, give us your justification for things that you think we have made comment on where you have a totally different opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments and the feedback. I think they're all very helpful and insightful for the intention behind what the committee would like to see. We've done our best to kind of have the architecture make sense with what's, surrounding modern. I think the suggestion about the pavers and some softscape, the streetscape is going to be very important. It's going to be what everybody sees. So we definitely agree that some softness and some landscaping is there. We understand the perspective regarding the grading. We actually do have a grading plan for the project in process so that we can have some more detailed information to present regarding that issue. The intention obviously is because I think for the reasons you outlined, having it set back from the street is preferable for so many reasons. We didn't anticipate that there would be the parking, the issue parking that was brought to the attention. So that's very helpful for us to realize that that is a issue there, that people are essentially parking outside the garages and obstructing the right of way. So that's not a condition that we want to intentionally create. I think the focus was more on getting it to be conforming and then not placing any undue burden on the homeowner for cost with excessive grading. So that was the thinking there. Yeah, the materials, I think that was the intention. Yeah, the comments were extremely helpful for us and give us some good direction. The roof comment was also very helpful. It's not our intention that 50% or more of the roof existing would be modified. I'll do some calculations. That was very helpful to make sure that we're not pushing the limit there, because it's definitely not the intention to trigger and lose that non-conforming status for obvious reasons, given that they want to keep the scope of the project relatively small. Oh, and just to confirm, I did double check my error on that unit 1. It would reduce that existing unit to 407 square feet, which will make sure that that reads correctly in the resubmitted plans.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Heidi, and good job. Michael and Jen, I'm of the opinion that, this is for both the owner and Heidi, that we're here to work with you to help you get this project crafted so we can get it approved and avoid any surprises at the planning commission level. So I think it's probably best that it comes back to this body one more time to review it, check it, make sure everything's addressed, and we will use what experience we have to address anything we think might be brought up at the next level. Michael and Jen, would you agree with that approach?
Yes,
Yeah, I would have. Chair, I would agree. I also would like us to be a little clearer. If the applicant look at the garage setback issue and decided that they would keep the garage as is in terms of the setback, will they be allowed to do that?
Katie will look at that, but I think I made my comment that I do believe there's going to be some conditions of approval at planning commission level that will be hard to make if we create that parking problem. So that needs to be considered also. But yes, you're absolutely right, Jen. Michael, did you agree, have it come back with the corrections requested?
yeah, I do. That'd be great.
Chair, let me clarify. I was saying if the applicant decided not to move the garage at all and just to leave it as is, as is today,
That's setback.
Would that be okay to keep that a
It
non-conforming
would be
situation?
considered a existing non-conforming, and the minor condition or minor exception permit or thing can state that it's an acceptable existing condition, I believe.
As long as
This garage will be treated as an accessory structure, right?
So like Commissioner Crandall said, it's a legal non-conforming structure. It is an accessory structure. Our code does specify that if the garage is non-conforming, that as long as the use, as long as the residence stays under that non-conforming threshold of 50% of either floor area, addition, exterior walls, et cetera, as long as it stays under that, the non-conforming garage can remain.
Okay, even if
And then,
the
and then they,
garage now is not an accessory structure anymore, it's attached to the main structure, but it's still okay for the garage alone to stay that way.
I'll have to check on that, because when I was reviewing it, I wasn't thinking of it in that sense as something that would stay non-conforming. So I would have to
Okay.
verify that. That's a very
Okay.
good point.
Yeah, just maybe give them an option. You know, if they really cannot make it work to set back by 18 feet, I wish they can.
Thank you for addressing that. That was a question that I had, so I appreciate you for mentioning that. It's helpful.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and we look forward to seeing it and working with you to get this project crafted where it can get through all its reviews. Thank you.
Can
Katie.
If I may ask a question, this is Barry Ashabi.
Yes, Barry.
When would the next DRC meeting be for the second review that you guys are proposing?
Katie?
We are eager to get this thing going, and
Well, it will depend a little bit on when you resubmit. Let me look at our calendar here. It looks like the next design review subcommittee meeting is on the 14th. At this point, I probably won't be able to add anything to that meeting. And then the following design review meeting is April 28th, which could be a possibility. But again, it's going to depend on when we receive the resubmittal.
How much time does staff need?
Well, so in this case, I do have one follow-up item to check with building. And it looks like engineering will have them kind of double check the additional information that you asked for on the grades at the front with the drive approach. So I do have some other divisions that will need to double check a couple of things. And typically we allow 2 weeks for those divisions. So it's a tight turnaround.
Well, let's make sure the applicant realizes we will turn it around as fast as we possibly can for you, because we're here to help you out rather than be a stumbling block. Okay, so we will close the item A. Do we have any new business, Katie?
No new business.
Any old business?
No old business.
Oral and written communications, we have none, so we will see if anybody would like to make a motion of adjournment.
I move to adjourn the regular meeting of design review subcommittee to until Wednesday, February 20. I'm sorry, I'm reading wrong. Until Wednesday, April 14, 2021, 4 p.m. via teleconference.
Second.
We have a motion by Wu, second by Blackwell. We'll take roll. Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Commissioner Blackwell,
Aye.
and I also vote aye, passes unanimously. I hope we help the applicant and their architect, and thank you, Katie.
Thank you.